Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am joined by an absolute fucking rock star. I'm so pumped to have Stacie Bourdon on our show. Stacie's been a first responder for over 15 years, and she's the founder and director of CX Solid, which is a nonprofit organization geared towards raising funds for alternate mental health initiatives for federal correctional officers. They're focused on Edmonton, but their goal is to go nationwide. And I had the absolute honor and privilege of meeting Stacie in person at the First Responder Rodeo that was in July, held in July. Great event, super fun. You had a booth set up and we got to actually meet face to face and have a good chat. And I just knew we needed to have you on the podcast. So welcome, Stacie. How are you today?
I am great, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me on here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so pumped. We had a really great chat at the rodeo. Again, rodeo, big shout out. If you did not go, if you guys don't know what it is, it's been around for a couple years. Super fun day. I took my girls. We had a blast. It's like a small town rodeo. They have it out in St. Albert. They've got booths. They got everything set up. All the people that are in the rodeo are first responders. So you can actually like sometimes see your friends. Like I had a friend that I had no idea was in the bronc riding, I think he was in, and I heard his name and I was like, what? And I like looked over and I was like, oh my God, wicked that he was out there. But yeah, super, super fun time. And they do have kind of the trade show side of things. So you were there with your booth set up for CX Solid. Again, so you've been a first responder for 15 years and then you founded CX Solid. So tell me about CX Solid. How long have you guys been around? Kind of the mandate is phenomenal. I love this alternate mental health initiatives for federal correction officers. But tell me, kind of how this came about and you're working through your kind of time in as a first responder. So what's it been like for you and how did this come about?
This has been a very long work in progress. As of March last year, not this year, I started seeing the very big need to have people out there to be able to do different things that weren't typical therapies like psychology, counseling, things like that. Because maybe first responders typically don't really like to go and spill their guts out to people all the time. Some do, some don't, and everybody has their preference, and whatever works for you and gets you through what you're going through, then absolutely game on. However, there's that side of things. I am one of them included that is not a real big fan of sitting there chatting with people. I like to go out and do things. I like to work on the body as well as the mind. I like to be able to have my mind going 100 different directions. Unfortunately, that's also my downfall, but it works in this case because you're probably the same way. So yeah, we needed to have something else out there for officers to be able to go and work on themselves, because working in this role as a first responder, there's days when aren't such great days. You really need to have something else going for you. So our entire mandate is to get out there and have these officers be able to go into different programming such as yoga, tai chi, equine wellness programs, journaling, you name it, we're looking at it or working with it. And we need them to be able to afford to do that. Unfortunately, with mental trauma and all sorts of other traumas, PTSD, WCB, working with this, financials is a huge burden on everybody. Not everybody has a spouse that has an equal or more income. So you need to be able to afford this as well as live. So CX Solid was founded with the entire goal of raising the funds to enable these officers to attend these programs, with CX Solid Foundation picking up the financial aspect of that. And we have been super duper lucky that we've got people that work with these programs and are willing to either give us massive deals or not charge us at all. So that's entirely what we're gaming to do here. And we are doing really well. Raising funds is a challenge because I am and never have been rather a fundraiser. That is not something that I've ever done in my entire life. So I'm learning as I go as well. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something we had talked kind of before the rodeo just about, how Blue Line could help you out, about offering up space and running first responder yoga sessions and things like that. And I totally agree with you. The traditional mental health supports, there's a lot of stigma, especially for first responders. There's a lot of stigma around even saying that you're going to go to therapy, not even actually going, but even just like broaching the subject of like, yeah, I think I need to go talk to somebody, like a professional, even though we like are kind of, I guess, getting better at being like, oh yeah, it's okay, and we do need help, and we do need somebody. There still is the stigma. You're still gonna get some fucking dick face.
Slow.
Yeah, that's gonna be like, really, you can't handle it, really? Yeah. Like, oh, no, yeah. I can't, man.
I'll find another job then.
Right? Yeah, we just saw some really traumatic shit. Like, no, I do need to go talk to somebody. Or again, like I've talked about multiple times on the podcast, sometimes it's not a single traumatic event. It is the buildup of that station stress. It's the buildup of seeing people get promoted that shouldn't get promoted, of being, victims of nepotism, being victims of bullying and harassment within your workplace. Like that stuff starts to build up. That is also trauma that you need to work through. And so, yeah, saying that you're going to go and get help, there's still stigma around that. And so I think it's really important that we do have like alternate strategies. Like you said, if there's a therapist that you love, that you go to, that you think is fantastic, and you really have a great connection and you find that helps you, awesome. For those people that perhaps that isn't where their headspace is at, or maybe they want to baby step into it, they want to try something a little bit different and then see if that helps. And then maybe if that doesn't help, then they're going to go to therapy. Like the fact that there's going to now be options with CX Solid offering these things, to me, the more options, the better. The more different strategies that we can share with our first responder community, the better it is, because it's just going to lead to healthier first responders, both physically and mentally. And then that means that when we go to work, our coworkers are going to be healthier too, because we're coming in a better mental space and a better physical space. So absolutely love it.
It actually works in conjunction with traditional therapies. So if you wanted to do both, then that is absolutely perfect, because now you're working on both sides of everything. And that's the beauty and the goal of everything, is to be able to work on your entire self, not just one section of it, right? There's no point in exercising your right arm if your left arm is left being a limp noodle on your side. Like, you have to have it all.
Yeah, and it is. It's looking for that balance between what do you need physically, what do you need emotionally, what do you need mentally, right? What self-care strategies can you implement? What can you do to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and ensuring that you are completely well? And so I know for sure that you do a lot with horses. So I want to delve into this because I love it. I think, again, like there's so much research behind equine therapy, even just being around horses, not necessarily even going to a therapeutic program, but just even going and being around horses, the calming effect, the, that ability just to sit in stillness with an animal, I think is beautiful. So tell me about kind of that work that you're doing and how that kind of leads into CX Solid as well.
Well, it all started out when I first, like I said, a year ago, March, I started taking horses into the Edmonton Maximum Jail for the correctional officers to be able to just have a decompression time. They could come out. I set my pens up. I brought 2 really quiet horses in, just hung out. I brought a lawn chair and we sat there, and these horses were just there for officers to come out and pet them and breathe their smells and brush them if they wanted. And that was such a hit. And I just got to see how these officers who had very traumatic days in some cases, they just come out and their entire bodies melted when it came to these animals. Now, I have been around horses my entire life, which is a very, it's getting to be a pretty long life now. And, it's been proven time and time again that these horses have been there for me through all sorts of situations. So it wasn't really surprising to me, but I think I was really surprised at how well the officers took it and how they loved and looked forward to seeing these animals on site. So I've coached for the good majority of my life. I've coached riding lessons and all different things and stuff like that. I've shown horses and everything else. And actually, I went one step further, Nikki, and I don't even know if you're aware of this yet, but I actually went and I got certified in Equine Assisted Learning.
Very cool.
So Equine Assisted Learning is There's actually a 2-year study right now at the place where I was certified. There's a 2-year study that is 100% geared towards how equine assisted learning, or EAL, works for PTSD and trauma specifically. And that is where I went to. So I went and got certified with 100% goal of working with EAL, with federal correctional officers and all first responders, not just the officers. So that's where I am now.
And so how, like, what was that program like? Like, what was the training like? How did that, like, was it, I mean, like, how long was it?
It was 5 days, and I had to go out to Saskatchewan to do it. And I lived in my horse trailer for 5 days, and I don't have a living quarter horse trailer. I cleaned the back out and I put a mattress in there on a tarp, and I stayed in these phenomenal people's yard. They're such amazing, amazing people and facilitators. And I stayed in the yard. They even took a horse with me, which is why I had the trailer with me. So I'd have somebody to ride. And I thought, it'd be a lot like our training for work, where you had some time and you could kind of kick back a little bit easier. Oh my God, this was the most intensive brain work I've done in a very, very long time. It was 5 days. It was a full 8.5 hour day easily. Like, I'm used to having a lunch hour when we go do things. They're like, okay, go get a sandwich and meet us in the arena as soon as you can. And it's like, what do you mean as soon as you can, right? Like, literally, it was stuff a sandwich in your face. You don't make your lunch at lunchtime. You stuffed a sandwich in your face as you're walking across the yard, kind of scenario, right? So it was pretty intense. And I think the biggest part of it was it was entirely drilling on the fact that you are not therapists. You are here to help people by facilitating with the horses, and the horses are the teachers. We actually don't teach anything. The horses are 100% the teachers now. And we, from day one, every day we were there, from day one, we actually worked with substance abuse children. And we worked with children from schools and things like that. So it was very cool. And I'm really excited to find out what the university study comes out with when it's done in a year, because it's a 2-year study that they're doing right now. So I'm really excited about that one.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, wanted to pop on here before we got into this next episode and let you know about a couple new rad ideas that we have for the podcast. So the first one is we have a survey up, and I would love to know what you guys think about the show. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your ideas for the next season, and I just love to know what you like and what you dislike about the podcast. And I'm going to sweeten the deal with a $50 gift card randomly drawn from everybody that completes the survey. The survey is going to be in the show notes of all of our shows, so no matter what time you start listening to the podcast at, you'll get a chance to win that gift certificate. The second thing that we're bringing in now is the ability for you guys to leave us a voicemail. You guys can actually call into the show, leave us a voicemail, let us know what you think about the show. If you have a funny story you'd like to share from your time as a first responder, I would love those and showcase those on the show as well. So make sure you guys check out that voicemail feature. It's going to be in the show notes, and check out the survey. Make sure that you get that chance to win that gift certificate.
Yeah,
that is, again, that's amazing. I love that you stayed in your horse trailer. You're like, look at me. I am one with my horses.
I've done that a lot over the years for horse shows and stuff. I'm used to doing that kind of stuff when I go camping with my horse quite a bit in the mountains. I'm used to doing that kind of stuff. So it really isn't a big deal for me. I had everything stuffed in the tack room, fixed up the back. I had a little, my extension cord there because they let me plug in. And I had my little table that I'd pull out with my camp stove on it. And it was just, it was a little camper. It was amazing, actually. I enjoyed it, and it was really nice out. So yeah.
I like that. I really like that. That's fantastic.
And we had homework every night, and I did it with a headlamp on because it was so much homework.
I was going to say, it sounds like it was a very intensive program, kind of crammed into 5 days. And so coming away from that,
apparently it used to be a 7-week course. They have managed to gear it down so people can actually function, because who can be gone for 7 weeks, right?
Yeah. So while you were doing this, did you learn things about yourself, about like things that you could put into your own kind of mental wellness or physical wellness kind of practice as you were going through this course? Like, were there certain things that really resonated with you that kind of went, oh yeah, I guess I do that, so maybe I should think about this as I'm doing it?
Oh my God, 100%. You know, by day two, I was like, why is a lot of the stuff that I'm worried about in life, why am I worried about this? I mean, I look at everything and I look at what could go wrong. I've always been that way. And I have that, that back door kind of always sitting kind of propped open. I've always been that way. And then when I started doing this course, I'm like, you know what? Some things you have to jump in at, which was this course, because I decided on a Thursday I was going and I left Sunday with the horse fully loaded. I wasn't supposed to go till the next month, and I was going to get back the night before the first responders rodeo. And then I had to pack up and head to the rodeo, which is why I decided to go a month ahead. So I contacted them on Thursday. Nobody answered me. Friday, I phoned her and I'm like, hey, like, can I still come? Because she said this course was kind of empty-ish. And she's like, absolutely, but we don't have a cabin for you to stay in. I'm like, that's okay. Can I stay in the yard in my trailer? And she probably thought I had a living quarters trailer. Yeah, no, I showed up with my bumper haul, 3-horse angle, sleeping in the back, put blankets down so I didn't have the poop crusts anywhere near my bed kind of thing, right? Like, it's classy. And so I loaded a horse and everything, and I was gone Sunday afternoon, and it was like, oh my goodness, that was a whirlwind. I got back Friday, I emptied that trailer out into another trailer, and we headed off to Sandhills for the night to go work on our routes for our fundraiser ride for August. So, oh my goodness, it was a whirlwind week. So, yeah.
Yeah, slightly.
Kind of got off track though. Yes, I learned an awful lot about myself, including the fact that yes, you can push through anything if you need to get it done. So,
yep, absolutely. And so when you were going through kind of, all of this training and all of these things, was there is there a standard kind of theme that kind of pops up for all first responders? Like, that it was like, this is something you're going to see, or this is something, this is a standard thing that equine therapy will be really helpful for all first responders?
Big time. A lot of this is actually geared towards communication, trust, teamwork. Teamwork is the biggest thing, because not only are you in there with two people, or like a team is 3 in this situation, and the 3 is 2 people and a horse. And what do you bring to that team? And you need to learn how to communicate with your entire team, including an entity that doesn't actually speak. You need to learn how to understand. So therefore, you need to learn how to look at body language. Like, if there isn't anything out there that's even higher for first responders to know, it's body language. And so you need to look at that body language and be able to assess what's happening there without those words being spoken to you. So that is a huge thing right there. And learning how to just sit back and observe the situation and listen. That was kind of a tough one for me, because all my years coaching, I'd step in and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to help you by either showing you how to do this, or I'm going to stand right there while you do it, right? And at one point, actually, one of the facilitators that was, with me, because they didn't just throw us into there and say, hey, facilitate. We had our facilitators with us, and I was stepping in to help these 2 kids. And she literally grabbed my shoulder and yoinked me back. And she's like, nope, you are sitting here and you are facilitating. You are not coaching. This is where we see coaches having a problem. So that was kind of probably the biggest and hardest thing for me, was just learning to step back and watch people rationalize and problem solve all by themselves without me stepping in to help them. So that's a big one.
Yeah, I think that's also a thing that I usually pick up on when I'm in these courses, is like, no, you're facilitating. You're not doing this for them. You are helping them find their way, right? And it's like, but I kind of know what they need to do, so can't I just tell them, and won't that be the short here? Yeah. But it's like, it is. You need to have that empowering moment yourself. And again, I've had it, where you kind of break through and you go, oh, fuck. Yeah, I needed to figure that out on my own. And maybe that person, it could just be, a conversation with good friends or family where, they've told you 3 or 4 times what you need to do, and you're not actually picking up what they're saying because you're so stuck in your headspace. And then all of a sudden you figure it out for yourself and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't I
And
just
like, and
listen?
then your friends look at you like, I've been
Yeah.
fucking telling you this for like the last, you're like, okay, I get it. I get it. So you touched on coming back from this training and basically figuring out the routes for your fundraising ride. So tell me about this because it sounds amazing. You just came back like a little bit, like 2 weeks ago, was it?
August 6th, we came back. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about this.
Oh boy, that was fun. So I have never taken on, I've been on many, 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 many rides. I have ridden all over BC and Alberta on these type of rides, but I have never hosted one. So CX Solid, there's three of us, Carlina, Jane, and myself. And we decided we were going to do a fundraiser ride because we know horses. All three of us are horse people. And, we're going to do this as a poker rally type event, but AGLC will not give us our gaming permit. So we couldn't do a poker rally. So we had to figure something else out. So we went, and Jane is really, really clever with coming up with artistic ways to do things, variable ways to do things. I am not artistic. I'm a doer. I'm a workhorse, but I'm not a creative little Arab that can fritter around, right?
Yeah.
And so we came up with the idea that we were going to do a poker ride, poker style like type ride, but no poker hands. Obviously, we weren't allowed. And how could we do this where we inspired people to want to come? Because just a trail ride is, it's blasé. Everybody does those, right? So we decided that we would do, not only were we going to host our first ride, we were going to host this incredible, friggin' huge, unheard of, never done before ride. Okay, so now we needed a never done before type ride. So we took on the trail ride. So it was called the Sandhill Safari. And it was one side of the ride was the dawdlers, and that was people who just wanted to go out. It was a 15 kilometer, 15 kilometer ride. And you just went out on the trail ride with your friends and, laughed, joked, had a drink on the trail, whatever the heck you did, right? Had a lunch, whatever you want to do. Not a problem. The dabblers, however, we decided we would take on an endurance style ride. So not only do I not, that is the one thing, probably one of the only things that I've never done is endurance riding, nor has Jane, nor has Carlina. So I had to learn all about endurance riding. And at one point I had a lady who was very, very high up in the endurance riding community who actually, created, or not created, but she organized that the Canadian Nationals kind of thing for the endurance riders. She reached out to me and she basically was like, what in the hell are you doing? Because it's not sanctioned. It isn't anything else. And she's like, I want to know what you're doing. And if possible, I want to help you. And I'm like, please help me, right? Because I'm trying to learn all these rules. And it is a book that is this thick of the rules just for the Alberta endurance riders.
Wow.
And I'm trying to learn these rules because they're they stick to most, it's Alberta, but it's Canada wide, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't even understand how this works when this horse comes in and that horse goes out and the timings, and it just wasn't working in my brain. So thank God Brenda contacted me and she became a consultant for me for this. And with this, we had to run into different legs, just like a leg race, like a foot race for people. We had to do different legs, different routes, different this, that, and the next thing. So we ended up going from one route, kind of make it shorter here. We went from one route to three routes, two entirely different styles of riders. And we had to flag all of this. And we had to know what we were doing. And I had vets coming in. Oh my goodness, it was just massive. And you know what? We pulled it off. It was amazing. I don't know how we pulled it off. And thank God we had people like Brenda come in and say, you know what, I want to help you. And poor Brenda, I talked to her numerous times and I said, when you first contacted me, did you literally sit there pulling your hair out going, what is this retard doing? And she's like, well, she says, I just really wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, well, that was nice of her to put it that way. So yeah, it was great.
I love that she saw and she was like, okay, yeah. I need to lend my expertise here. But I mean, we kind of talked about this before we started recording about how we have these ideas and then all of a sudden it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. Then you're like, oh shit, I've bitten off more than I can chew. So when those people come along and they are like, let me help you. It is the greatest thing in the entire world. You're like, yes,
God.
please, because I have no fucking clue what I'm doing.
She even was going to go as far as to do my pre-ride briefing for me, or with me rather. And she's like, if anybody wants to go out there, because remember, this endurance side was not supposed to be a sanctioned ride. The entire goal of it was like, you or I could go out and ride this endurance ride if we had fit enough horses, because it was short. It was only 25 kilometers.
Right.
And a limited distance endurance ride for a sanctioned ride is 25 miles.
Oh, wow.
So it is way shorter and everything, right? So it's something that a standard fit horse could do without being run off its legs and dying because somebody thinks that they're going to be able to go mock chicken with it and things like that, right? So we had all this. She even said, I'll go out and I will absolutely take people out there and I will mentor them on the trail. And I mean, this lady's been doing endurance riding for at least 50 years. She is in the know. She's amazing. Yeah. But as the day of the ride approached, she messaged me a couple days prior. She's like, I am so sorry. I have a dental emergency and I can't get into the dentist until the day of your ride. And I'm like, you know what? Obviously, you need to deal with that. But you know what? I appreciated everything she'd done for me at that point. And I have this amazing person now I can reach out to if I decide we're going to do this again, because it was a lot of learning curve. I didn't even know how they put the numbers on the horses at that time. I thought it was like in a show where you clipped it to the horse's tack. Like, I thought that's what, and they're like, no, we use grease pens and we write on them. And I'm like, oh,
okay. Yeah.
I had to go buy a grease pen, and then it's like, what color? There's 27 different colors. Well, that's a preference, I guess. But things like that, right? Like just all sorts of crazy stuff. I had no idea. And so I had to learn all of this. It was a lot of fun, actually. So, and now I'm interested in trying it myself.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Right. So then you're learning something new yourself. So, so how many riders showed up? Like, how did that, like, it was successful. You pulled it off, which is phenomenal. How did that, I mean, obviously I think people probably had a freaking phenomenal time, but how did that work out for you guys? Like that you had people come and register and do this and then how did it go?
Well, it went really good. So Jane, of course, she used to run an organization called Wild Pink Yonder, where she raised over $1 million for breast cancer with horses. So Jane is one of the first people I approached when I decided I was building CX Solid. And then Jane came on board with us, which was just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so she brought all that amazing history and all that amazing knowledge to the table when she joined us. And so she's like, okay, if we're doing things, we don't do things half-assed. So we aren't going to do like a hot dog and a hamburger type supper like every other ride that I've ever gone to. And I might add every other ride that doesn't have like a vegan or vegetarian option. And so I go and eat like a potato or something. And but anyway, so we went even one step further and we had a full course steak dinner that night.
Oh, amazing.
And like we had all our food donated to, like everything was donated to us by companies and stores around, and just amazing. Yeah, I can't even, we could go into the sponsors and the people that have donated to it, like incessantly. But so we did that and we didn't have the turnout we were looking for. I think our weekend was maybe wrong. We chose August 3rd, so everybody was gone. And, learning curves, baby steps, right? Once I figured out all the oh my goodness, the permits and all the authorizations and things I didn't know I needed, thank God for one of the endurance runs that they do up in that area, because I reached out to him and I said, hey, like, have you ever done this? He's like, no, he says, but this is what we did in that circumstance was XYZ, and contact this person, this person. I'm like, thank you, because he was a lifesaver with that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's an ultra marathoner up there, runs it out of that area specifically for, I think, 15 years he's been doing it. So he knows what he's doing. And so that was really good, but we didn't have the turnout of riders, but we did have riders as far away as Calgary, which was amazing. We had an entire barn brought, she was amazing. She brought, I think she brought 10 horses, 10 kids. Well, I think 7 kids and 3 instructors. And they did the trails on their big, tall, Englishy jumping horses, which I looked at that and went, oh my God, like this scares me, but they had a blast and they just absolutely loved it. So we had some randoms, a mom and son team come up there, and they were our first riders out, and they were like, this was great. We're definitely doing this next year. So yeah, we had riders from all over the place, but it was really amazing that we had that. Again, we could have had a better turnout, but the ride itself was highly successful. Every single person loved it, loved how it was ran. I actually had 3 actual endurance riders showed up. They contacted me, I think 4 days before the ride and said, hey, like, we're interested. Is it too late? And I'm like, nope, because right now you're our only endurance riders. Because people were a little scared at that. And I was like, oh man, I did all this work and nobody's coming, right?
Yeah.
These 3 came and they actually ride with Brenda, and they won. One of them is actually doing regionals, I think, this week. And I said, yeah, you guys come and you tell me how you think we're doing with this, right? Mm-hmm. So we could kind of get rid of a couple things because they do this all the time, full time, and stuff like that. And they were amazing. They came and they sat with us, and they're like, okay, you know what? Everything was really great. This is the only couple things that we would see. And they said, if you do this again, we'll actually flag all your trails for you. So they stepped up and they said, we would gladly do that. So they actually want me to run one just outside of Edmonton here. So it's a little closer.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. I haven't committed to anything. I'm still recovering from Sandhills. So
yeah. You're like, I'm exhausted and I need a break.
You know what? We just organizing. And of course it happened. Unfortunately, it was very terrible because, and I think a lot of the problems with having riders show up too, we had a lot of problems because Jasper, that was a huge, huge issue. And I feel so bad that it happened at that same time. And I feel so bad for everybody out there. It was just awful that happened, right? And the recovery from that's going to be felt for a very long time. So, and, but, I think because we had actually my nurse, my medic came from Prince George, BC, and she drove 13 hours to come out and be our medic for this. And she actually, I know, amazing. This is what good friends do for you, right?
Yeah.
And she came out, she spent 3-4 days with us out there. And the only thing she needed to be medical about was one Band-Aid. And it was actually on herself, ironically enough. So. If you go on our website, you'll actually see a little layout of how we had everything laid out. So it was really great. I was really, really happy with how it all worked. So
that's awesome. And so big success in that, you pulled it off, people showed up, you raised, I think you said over $1,000. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah. After free and clear $1,000.
And so I'm going to say, like, having organized a lot of events for a lot of different things, raising $1,000 is a massive, thumbs up. So well done to you guys, because that's a lot of money. It really is a lot of money, and well done. Way to pull that kind of inaugural year, kicking it off, learning all these things, 100%. Providing an amazing experience. That sounds like the ride itself, and then a steak dinner. That sounds like a freaking phenomenal event and thing to be part of, and to know that it was raising money for, a good cause, right? What are some of the other things that you guys have kind of in the works or plans coming up or things like that? So we did do challenge coins. We have some challenge coins that we have put out there for people to purchase. They're lovely. They've got the PTSD ribbon on one side, and actually the other side has a tower and the fence and everything like that with a gorgeous sunset behind it. You can see those on our Facebook page, CX Solid Foundation. And then we have hoodies that we're in the process of designing. So we're actually going to do some hoodies as a fundraiser as well. We are actually planning on doing this ride and another next year. We're planning on doing a spring and fall ride like this. Obviously, like I said, we're horse people, so we kind of go with what we know. And I love organizing things. As much as some days you want to pull your hair out, I do love organizing things. So that was a lot of fun for me for the most part. Other than that, we're actually just going to sit down here next week and do a little bit more brainstorming. We had to sit back a little bit after all of this summer because we had the rodeo, which was our first big public showing, and that went really well. Then we have, I'm in the process of working with the EAL program and getting that up and running for everything. I've got a couple of officers that have been coming out to that. So that's been really awesome. And I got to say, as soon as it's impossible to explain EAL
But as soon as they take one course, and I invite anybody to come out for a trial course or a trial session, is absolutely come on out, give it a whirl and see if it's something that could work for you. But as soon as they finish their first session and they go, holy, I see how this works now. I see why this works now.
Yeah.
Because I, like I said, it's so hard to explain. I'm certified and I can't even explain it, you know, but so that's kind of what we're working on right now. And of course, Peak Equestrian, which is my EAL handle, that works with CX Solid in conjunction with them to work with those officers as well. So,
I love it. Like, all great ideas, great ways to kind of fundraise for the initiatives that you're trying to do for these first responders. So for first responders that are looking to kind of, and I know like right now it's geared towards federal correctional officers. So those that are listening, how can they reach out to you to start to access these services? How can our listeners get involved? Is there other, you mentioned Facebook, so following on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and keeping abreast of like what events are coming up. But is there a way that we can support you, in another way, financially or donations? Or if people are looking to access those services, how can we share that information with the listeners?
You can contact our website is cxsolid.ca, and you can do donations on there. We do PayPal, e-transfers, cash if you wanted to send us money, whatever you want. You can message us through there, or you can message us through our Facebook page, which is CX Solid Foundation. And we, of course, there's two of us that handle the media side of things. So there's always somebody ready to answer you. You can contact us just with questions, just to talk to us about any of these programs. We absolutely are passionate about what we are doing here. And these officers, all first responders, need help, but officers at the federal correctional sites, they just need a little bit of extra help with some things, I think, that we are able to help them with. However, just as a side note, peakequestrian.org is my horse side of things. And my EAL, the Equine Assisted Learning, is actually for everybody. I am doing that. I offer 15% off of all my sessions for any first responder in any field. Doesn't have to be corrections, because first responders they're the front line for all of us, not just for their families and stuff. They're out there keeping all society safe and keeping everybody kind of moving forward, I guess. So we are 100% there to back them. So if you're interested in looking at the EAL side of things, the Peak Equestrian website, peakequestrian.org, is entirely geared towards equine assisted learning right now. I do coach as well, but that's a whole nother side of it. And yeah, so those are two ways to look at us. I just got on Instagram and I'm not very good at it. So you can look at CX Solid on Instagram, but trying to figure out how to link those things.
I'll fill you in, girl. I'll fill you in after the show. I'll let you know.
Technology sucks for me.
I know. Sometimes that is the one thing about like starting a business, or like, again, a nonprofit. And yeah. Dee Walker, who was the founder of True Haven, same thing. She's like, how did you learn all these things? And I was like, oh, trial and fucking error, girl, like trial and error. And like, yeah. And then you learn and you're like, I need to learn how to do this. Okay. I need to learn how to do this. I need to learn why is this so challenging? And then I look at like all the Instagram influencers and I'm like, you bitches have way more time in your day than I fucking do.
Right? I'm like, oh my God, I Google it and I'm like, how does Facebook link to Instagram? So it just prompts you. But I look at that and then I look at my Facebook thing and they don't have the same buttons.
Yes. Yeah. Believe me, I totally get it. That's so funny. So funny. I love that. Well, like I said, I mean, it sounds like you've got some really good things kind of coming up. And I love that, like that there's these options that are out there, and Blue Line, like I said, will be looking to host some workshops with us for yoga and meditation and stuff like that in conjunction with CX Solid. So for our listeners that follow Blue Line, watch for that stuff if you guys are interested. We'd love to have you out, and we'd love to be able to kind of connect our families that way as well.
Absolutely. And
so what is the kind of the future for CX Solid? I know right now you're focused on local and this is where we can kind of get our feet wet and kind of experiment with our local community, but your goal is to go nationwide. And so are you looking at having other kind of chapters of this in other areas of the country? If there's listeners out there that are maybe interested in kind of helping you out and they're from a different province, what can they do to kind of get started with that?
Communication is the best thing to get started with anything right now, because yes, we would love to send CX Solid across the country. I sent challenge coins out as far as, oh man, I think I sent them all the way to Ontario recently.
Awesome.
So, I mean, CX Solid is definitely getting out there. I've had officers from several provinces over contacting me looking for ways they can support us and help us, because they 100% believe in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the baby steps. We are fairly local right now. We say we're Edmonton Max, but I'm also working with the women's as well, because we're all in the same soupy bowl, I guess, is the deal, right? We all have to deal with the problems and situations, and if we can help one person with this, then it makes it worth it, right? Yep. But yeah, ultimately, I think the way to go is we're probably going to end up with chapters across the country, and people are going to have to. They're going to have to get their own little organizations and niches going. Obviously, we aren't going to be able to send our program people across there, but there's nothing saying that they don't have those amazing people out there that are willing to support officers as well. And that's the biggest thing I did find, especially at the rodeo, how many of those people were just like, absolutely, like, officers need all the help they can get. First responders need all the help they can get, and they need to know that the public is listening. Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing, because we all forget as first responders that we get stuck in our own little area, and we're all just kind of in our own little clique and stuff, right? And we have our brothers and sisters in blue or gray or whatever color you happen to wear. But we forget that somebody else is watching us and supporting us and being happy to be there for us, right? So I think that's a big thing too. Who knows? Maybe we're going to do like something in a park somewhere. I would love to absolutely set up a booth in a park somewhere, bring some horses for people to pet, and just have a little information sit down and have a little conversation, and have different organizations come in and chat, right, of different things and stuff. Maybe that's on the books for this fall. I don't know. The thing is I do know that you can whip anything together if you want to do it bad enough. So I mean, God, I didn't have a website over a year ago. I wouldn't have even known anything about half the stuff that I did now.
Love it. It's you know what? It's totally true though. And again, you're just learning as you go. It is what it is. And yeah, but I'm really excited about that. I'm excited for you guys to be able to kind of launch the things you want to do and really get that traction that you're looking for. Cause it's, you nailed it, when you said like, this is so important. It is so important that we take care of our officers, that we take care of the people that are taking care of our communities. And so I think, it's great. It's so good. Okay. So I usually wrap up my podcast with kind of some fun rapid fire questions. So I'm going to kind of try and tailor them to you and what you love to do. So you are a first responder, but we're not going to really delve into that because I want to keep it very focused on CX Solid. But what is your favorite food or snack while you are riding or while you're out on the trail with your horse?
God, I love my apples. And it's not because I love apples, but the biggest reason is me and my horse gets an apple then, because I get the apple, he gets the core. I bend over, he stops, whips his head around because he knows what is coming. Yeah. And actually yesterday we went out for a ride, or the day before, I guess, and I haven't been on a horse since Sandhills actually. So we were just walking down the road, and my neighbor's apple trees are in full fruit right now. So it's like, well, we're going to go for a little raid session here. So we went in and picked a bunch of apples for our ride. But yeah, so I'd have to say apples. So yeah.
It's great because they're portable. They're easy. You can, totally. I love it. Love that.
Apples are good. They're edible.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a dual snack. So I do like that. That's fantastic.
I'm in bear country, so you aren't leaving food laying around when you're cruising around. So it's like fully gone because he eats the rest of it. So
yes, no, and that is good. That is very good. Okay, second question is, what is one of the craziest things that has happened to you while riding, or that happened during your trail, your fundraising ride, anything like that? Any crazy stories from when that was going on?
Well, we'll focus on Sandhills. And so we were out doing our pre-scouting ride to figure out which trails we were doing. Carlene and I were out there, and she was just riding one of my horses. So I had the brother sister who actually are my EAL horses as well. And they are rock stars out there. There is no safer horse to be on when you're out in the middle of bear country and stuff. And we'd just gone hell bent for leather. I mean, we don't usually get out and just whip it up and let them run, right? But what the hell? We were out there having fun, enjoying our time. It was actually right after I got back from Saskatchewan. And we just pulled them up and let them down to a walk, and we're laughing and joking. And my horse started looking around a little bit. And I was like, something is or has been through here recently. And I was thinking moose or deer or something, because he wasn't really too concerned. And just as that thought finished up in my brain, I walked up and I could see at the corner where we had to go down to where our truck was parked about 2 kilometers away. And I saw something dark in the tree, and I was like, oh, and yet sure as hell, a bear head popped out. And I'm like, bear. So I yelled at Carlina, stop, there's a bear. And before the words were even out of my mouth, the worst thing happened, and 2 cubs popped out with it. So I've run across hundreds of bears out riding, lots and lots and lots and lots of them. They always turn and go the other way. I've never been concerned. I backpack. I do distance backpacking, 100 kilometers type of scenario, week out at a time. I've never run across a really big issue. But I'm telling you, there is nothing that causes more fear and terror in a person's heart than seeing a sow and her cubs. And she just looked at us and she started charging.
Oh, God.
And my horses, rock stars that they are, stopped and looked at her, and I started backing away. And Max is just like, okay, quietly backed away from her. And then we backed away, and like she stopped as soon as we started backing away. And so we turned around and we ran around the corner, but the only way back to the truck was another 10 kilometers a different direction. And we were not doing that. That was happening. So we just hung out around this corner for about 5 minutes or so. And I was like, okay, she's either coming down the trail at us, and we'll know as soon as she comes around that corner at us, or she's pissing off into no man's land. So about 5 minutes later, I said, okay, I'm bored. So here we go. And I asked my horse to move forward, and he did. And he's like, okay. And we get up there, and I'm looking and I'm looking. I mean, 5 minutes is not much time for her to cover ground. So she wasn't too far with her babies, but thankfully she chose to go the other way. She didn't choose violence that day. And I told Carlina, I said, we are going to, and we couldn't just take off. We couldn't just boot past her, because there's a massive hill that we had to go down right where she'd come out at that corner. And I said, as soon as we get down that hill, I said, we are putting some miles between us. And she's like, yep. So we did. We got down that hill and we just started moving. So we probably covered a good kilometer or so before we come down again. It was quite funny, actually. So,
my God.
And then that night we were sleeping in the trailer, and I don't know what happened, but something hit the trailer. And we are in the middle of nowhere. There isn't even cell service where we are. And something hit the trailer and moved the trailer, and it wasn't hard like an antler or something scratching on it like a moose or a deer or anything. All I can think is a moose come up and was like scratching his butt on the back of the trailer. I don't know what it is. I couldn't see anything. The horses weren't freaked out. We couldn't hear them panicking. So I don't know what that was to this day. And I'm like, you know what? It's better not knowing sometimes.
You're like, I'm good. I'm good without not knowing any of these things. I'm totally fine with that.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's holy man. Oh my God.
So that was the most recent crazy. I mean, I've got a lot of crazy stories, but we don't have enough time. That's the most recent one.
Wow. That's like when you see the cubs, that's like when you're like, oh my God, we need to like it is time to get the fuck out of here and go.
I've only had that happen once before, a long, long, long time ago, and I never did see Mama, and the cub had gone up the tree right in front of me. And we turned around and we walked out, because we were actually in a dead end area. And I was like, if she comes in behind us, we're screwed. There's nowhere to go. And thankfully we turned around and started walking away from the cub, and we never saw her, but I guarantee you she saw us. So
Crazy,
Yeah, mama
crazy,
bears and babies
crazy.
are not a good combination.
No, like not even a little bit. It's
No.
like, oh my God, Jesus
Like
Murphy.
I said, that caused considerable angst in my mind. I don't care about bears, but that was a lot because she will fight to the death for her baby. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's yeah. I'm abort mission. Abort mission. Let's get the fuck out.
I was trying.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy. 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 Okay. Well, I think on that note, I mean, I can't top that because that's just no, thank you. Like I don't want anything to do with that. But yeah,
It's the backpacking stories next.
oh my gosh. No, like no. We saw a bear when we did West Coast Trail, but he was like a ways and he was only a little black bear. So I was like, okay, like you're over there on the beach and I'm over here on like we were on like kind of the, what would it be called? Like the coral reef. It's not coral because it's obviously like what you call it, but like on the reef walking along. And I was like, okay, like I'm fine over here and he's over there and like we're far enough away. But he followed us for like a good 1.5 kilometers. And I was like, okay, bud, like at some point the tide is coming up and we need to get off of this like thing, this shelf that we're on and go back onto the sand. And so I need you to just like move along here, bud. Just move along, right?
I've done the West Coast Trail twice and I did the North Coast Trail once, and we're coming around a point on the North Coast Trail. And we'd stopped on one side and I blew my knee at the beginning of that hike. So I'd been dawdling along for 40 kilometers or so at that point.
Yeah.
And I stopped and had a snack because it'd been sideways rain. Well, you did the ocean. I mean, it sucks. When it's nice, it's beautiful. When it rains, it sucks.
Yeah.
And it rained all day and it was sideways driving rain and we were all cold and miserable. And we stopped, had a snack, took our packs off and stuff. And then we walked around, got back in the harness, walked around that point, literally 12 feet around that point, and there's a bear just down the way. And the girls I was with, we call ourselves the hiking bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have reflective names of that too. And anyway, so he's down there, and then Erica, she's like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, fuck this bear, man. So I grabbed my poles and I was like, oh, and I yelled at him, right? And he's like, shit. And off he went running into the trees. And I was like, that's how you deal with a bear. Mm-hmm. Well, then the next morning, we spent the night at Laura Creek, which was a terrible, well, it was a rough night. We were in bed by 6. I walked down to the ocean to brush my teeth, and it was just after one of the tsunamis. So there's all this kelp that had blown in and was like gross and stank. Mm-hmm. And I'm brushing my teeth, not really paying a lot of attention. And I look over, and 50 freaking feet away from me is that goddamn bear. I swear to God. And I looked at him like, really, what the fuck, man? And he's like, shit. And off he goes into the trees again.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Anyway, stupid side notes.
No, because well, like I said, I would love to do the North Coast Trail. That's next on my bucket list. I think it'd be amazing. Ah, okay, all right. Well,
blew my knee in the first 4 kilometers. 4.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. Well, we'll talk. We'll talk offline. We'll figure out what's what. But
Cape Scott.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, it's been a slice. We've covered so many things. It's been so good. And again, thank you for doing this work. Thank you for taking this on, because I know, as first responders, we're already busy. We already have enough on our plate. But then we kind of identify that change that needs to happen, and we identify things that need to be done and that need to be addressed. But it's a lot of extra fucking work on top of doing our regular duties, going, working your regular shifts and doing your regular things and working night shifts and all those things. So I massively appreciate what you're doing for our first responder community. Definitely we'll share, and Blue Line is here to help in any way, shape, or form to, get you what you need and provide space or resources if you need it, or community. But yeah, it's been great to chat with you. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
It's just, the organization just came about. It's amazing how things that have to happen and things that are needed just come about, and somebody has to take them on. Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily have to know what you're doing, because I've proven that time and time again. But you know what? We do have, as much as we as first responders and every aspect of first responders, we all get this mindset where we think, oh my God, the world sucks. Everything about the world sucks. Everybody in the world sucks. Yeah. But as soon as you start stepping out and you start talking to people and you start chatting with people about what you're doing and everything else, it's amazing how that opens up. I never thought in a million years I could walk into a grocery store and say, hey, I'm doing this. Would you donate XYZ? And I'm going to tell you 3 different times I did this year. And I walked out of there every single time with gift cards or full sponsors, like our meat, our entire steaks and everything were donated 100%. Like the
Awesome.
organizations that come out there and you tell them what you're doing, they step up and go, you know what? Absolutely. We want to help you however we can. Sometimes they can only do a little bit, but every little bit sure adds up. And I think that's something we all need to remember is every little bit adds up. Sharing a post or just talking about an organization or, you know, a $10 donation. It's amazing how I'd be at my absolute lowest and I would get a donation in from somebody's mom. My daughter's new in this field and you need to, you know, you're helping these people. So I want to send whatever I can. And that just made my day, you know? So that's about the only thing I got to say is, you know, look for the good and everything out there because it is there and I'm as guilty as everyone else and not looking for that good. So got to keep reminding myself that.
It's, you know what, it's totally true. I get messages, you know, every so often from people that say, I don't know if you know this, but like your post today was what I needed to see. Or I don't know if you know this, but like you changed my life because of you, I am now healthier or my body is better. Or I've now taken my health as a priority because I came to run the test and I failed miserably and I realized how out of shape I was. Or, you know, wow, thanks for sharing this information. Or, you know, like I posted yesterday about just like where I was 5 years ago compared to where I am today. And it was a pretty vulnerable post about, you know, how deep and dark I was 5 years ago and kind of how I dug myself out of it. And the amount of messages that I've gotten from people about it, just like, holy shit, thank you for saying it. Like I needed to see this day. So you never know who you're affecting. You never know who's seeing what you're doing, who's being, you know, influenced by it, who's being inspired by it. And I totally agree. Look for the good. It's out there. People want it. I mean, people are inherently good. And we often do times kind of lose sight of that as first responders because all we see is the bad all day, every day. But really, the majority of humankind is good and they want to be good and they want to be kind and they want to be, you know, helpful. And so if we can lean into that a little bit more than we lean into the shit, I think it would helps everybody. It helps everybody be better and be kinder and be nicer and take care of each other a little bit more. So absolutely love that. That's fantastic. It's a great note to end on. So thank you again, Stacie. Loved having you. And we'll touch base again. I'd love to have you back on the show, you know, in a couple months and we can talk about what else you guys have on the go. For our listeners, I'll be throwing the Facebook, the Instagram, the website, all that stuff is going to go into the show notes. So if you are interested in any of that information, check the show notes. If you want to leave us a voice message, if you want to leave us a text message, you can do that through the show as well. I can make sure that gets to Stacie. But yeah, definitely interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any ideas, I think I'd also take that. If you have any ideas, things that you would like to see as a first responder, something that you think would help, let us know. Because again, Blue Line, we're down. I know CX Solid is down for that too. So share those ideas. Let's interact and let's build this community. Because I think the bigger the community is, the better it's going to be for everybody. So
100%. Awesome. And Carlene and I are so game. We'll go out and do pretty much anything. There's really not much we don't do. So
love that.
We did a wall climbing night, actually. I forgot about that.
Awesome.
As a fundraiser. Yeah. So things like that. We love that stuff.
Yep. And that's great. And again, build your network, meet new people. You never know what you might learn from somebody that you meet at one of these events. So yeah, absolutely love that. Awesome. All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day then, darling.
Thanks, Nikki. You have a great day as well.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.